That's one of the things about the old country church that I liked is you had a good 5, 10 solid minutes of walking around shaking people's hands. I think it's very inviting, and it kind of gets us out of our comfort zone a little bit, which is what we're going to be talking about this morning. Just so I get the date right, on April 13th in 1970, I wasn't even thought of back then, but in April 13th of 1970, the Apollo 13 lifted off, and they were 200,000 miles away from Earth, and something went wrong. It went dark, and that's where the phrase was coined. One of the astronauts sent back down a message, and he said, "Houston, we have a problem." So this week, that's what we're going to be talking about. That's the series that we've been in, is Houston, we have a problem. We're going to be talking about comfortability, being uncomfortable. So I'm going to make y'all a little uncomfortable this morning, and just to show you all and tell y'all I'm a little uncomfortable up here right now myself. I always am, and I've always said that if I lose that, then I'll quit, because right up here is an important thing. What we're doing in church, not only myself, but what we're doing in church, what we're doing as a church, small group, ministries, every different thing, it's important. And God's going to push us to a limit where we're just a little bit uncomfortable. If you're not a little bit uncomfortable with it, then you're not doing it right. So if I've hurt your feelings, I apologize, but I just want to tell you that if you're not uncomfortable in what you're doing for God, then you're not in the right spot and you need to keep going. My shirt right here, I bought this, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and it hid in my closet for a long time because it made me uncomfortable to wear it out in public. Because, you got it on display right there. We should just be happy, right? For those of you that can't see, it says, "I am a Christian." Sometimes we like to get into the world, and we like to just kind of blend in and be a chameleon, and we're comfortable walking around in the skin that we're in. So sometimes we need to get out of that comfort zone, and we need to have it proudly displayed on the front of us to where we're uncomfortable just a little bit, but it opens up the door for somebody to come in and say, "You're a Christian. I want to know what you've got going on. I want to know what you've got in your life." Because maybe you're living a good life. Maybe things are going great for you at the time. And they see that, and they see that you're a Christian, and they want to be a part of that. They want to have what you want, because what is our job as Christians? Our job as Christians is to go out and find these people. Go out and bring the lost in. Go out and bring the hurting in to the church. And we'll go over that here in just a little bit about the different ways and the different things. But this morning I got 3 groups of people I want to try to explain to you before we get started. These people kind of make you uncomfortable. You've got the extremely blunt people. I know several of those, and I'm not going to point any of them out, and I'm not going to look at you, or I'll try not to look at you, so I'll just close my eyes. Anyways, those extremely blunt people that you're in a group with them, maybe you're sitting down at small group, or maybe you're sitting down at Sunday lunch with somebody, and there's somebody talking about, "Well, I did this and I messed up," and that extremely blunt person is just sitting down at the end of the table like, "Yeah, have you ever tried not being an idiot?" And then everybody just kind of like, "I don't know that person." Or you're standing in the checkout line at Walmart and somebody's just yapping over here, and that person's like, "Will you be quiet? Nobody wants to hear that right now." So you have those extremely blunt people. They make you uncomfortable. They make, no finger pointing. No, they make you uncomfortable to be around sometimes. Or you've got that person that's got that really dry sense of humor. Like they've said a joke, they're telling you a joke. This joke takes 15 minutes to get through, and they hit the punchline, and you're sitting there going, and they're waiting on a response like, "Bueller, Bueller." And you're like, "Oh, yeah, that's funny." And, it makes you uncomfortable because you didn't get the punchline, and they're expecting it to just be hilarious. So you got those extremely dry people, and then you got those super spiritual people. And if you're this person this morning, I'm sorry. I love you still. But it's like they come up and they talk to you like, "Hey, I have meditated and I've prayed for 3.5 hours this morning. God has laid it on my heart that I am just the most patient person that there is, and you should be around me so I can rub off on you a little bit." Look at me. I am the epitome of what a Christian should be. And it makes you uncomfortable because you don't fit into that mold that they do. So this morning, we're going to talk about being uncomfortable and what it means to be uncomfortable for God. And when it becomes a problem for us, when we reach outside that comfort zone. So I know some super blunt people. I've been with those people, and it made me very uncomfortable in some of the situations they put me in. But Jesus can make us uncomfortable sometimes. The things that are said in the Bible, the things that we are supposed to do, can make us very uncomfortable. Like he said, if your hand causes you to sin, to cut it off. If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. This dude's hardcore. That makes me uncomfortable. I know that my hands have caused me to sin before. I know that my eyes have caused me to sin before. Very uncomfortable to think that I would have to pluck my own eye out. So maybe y'all know what I'm saying this morning. Maybe it's the idea of living different than everyone else. Christians, we are supposed to be set apart. We are not of the world. I mean, the Bible specifically says that we are not of the world. We are a chosen people. So for us to live in a world of sinful nature and not to be of that world, things are going to get uncomfortable. So I'm going to go on ahead and tell y'all, Houston, we have a problem this morning because you are going to get uncomfortable. I'm sure that some of you might be twitching in your seat right now because you're already getting uncomfortable. Trust me, like I said, I'm uncomfortable sometimes. The way that God has led me in the direction that I've went in my ministry, I get uncomfortable sometimes. Here's the one thing that I want to point out to you this morning, and I want you to understand this. Satan loves complacency. I've said this throughout my ministry. Every time that I get a chance to say it, I'm going to say it. Satan loves complacency. He loves you being still. He loves you staying inside of your comfort zone because he has no worry with you. If you are happy coming into church and listening to the worship team and listening to the guy that's standing up here talking to you and then going back home, he has no worry for you this morning. It doesn't matter what you do because you're not moving for God. If you stay in your comfort zone, there's no worry for you because you are not out reaching people. You are not out trying to find some lost soul. You're not moving forward for God. So he don't care. So you're basically his best friend because it don't matter what you do because you're staying within that comfort zone. So this morning, I want you to think, Jesus' ministry, he made a lot of people uncomfortable. What if his main mission in this life, in the life that he lived, was to make us uncomfortable? What happens when you're uncomfortable? You move around a little bit, right? If that seat's not a plush, padded seat, and you get uncomfortable, you're going to move around a little bit. You're going to try to get comfortable. So this morning, I want us to be uncomfortable. So we're going to start in Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 through 26, if you'd like to turn over there. Matthew chapter 16, verse 24 says, "Then Jesus said to his disciples, 'If any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul?'" Following Jesus is going to get uncomfortable, but it's worth it. I want you to hear that again. Following Jesus is going to get uncomfortable, but I promise you, it's worth it in the end. So before I go any further, I want y'all to know, this is not a message of salvation. Somebody may get salvation out of it, and I'll be so thankful for it, but this is not a message of salvation. This is a message to Christians. This is the overflow of salvation. This is what you get through serving God. That's the group that I'm trying to reach this morning. I want you all to listen to me. I want you all, the everyday churchgoer, I want you all to listen to me this morning. It's going to get uncomfortable. And you're going to hear that word, and it's already annoying myself as many times as I've said uncomfortable, but here it is. It's going to get uncomfortable for us. So why would you think that living in an anti-Jesus world, I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not the preacher standing there screaming revelations on the corner. I'm not the crazy guy screaming at you that the world is going to end, but I'm telling you, today the world is against us. Plain and simple. There are places in this world that people can't even come to church. We come in here and we're drinking coffee and we're sitting in nice padded seats. There's people out there that are scared to death. They're scared for their life to get caught with just a page of the Bible in their pocket. But they do it. There's places where people are getting persecuted. They're getting sent to jail. They're getting killed because all they want to do is they want one little piece of what we got. They would be tickled to death to be 5 minutes just to watch us on a screen in peace. They make themselves uncomfortable because they want Jesus. They want a part of what we have. So is it so hard for us to ask that we go out and we try to reach those people? We try to get to those people. That's why we have missionaries. That's why we have a mission field that we go to. That's why we send people out into the mission field, so they can reach these people. And trust me, I've never been on a mission trip. I've talked to several missionaries. I've talked to several people that have went on mission trips. Those are not comfortable at all. They're sleeping in huts. They're sleeping in hammocks. They're barely getting water and food. It's not comfortable, but they do it because that's where God has led them. So while I'm preaching this morning, I want y'all to think of somewhere that God is leading you, that you've said, well, I don't know. I don't have the comforts of my house and get to go in and kick my shoes off and lay in the lazy boy and watch TV and have food readily available in the refrigerator, water anytime I want it, any kind of Coke that I want to drink, I can grab it. We live in a world of comfort. So we've got to get outside of that comfort zone. So as Jesus followers, we must follow Jesus. The verse says that if you want to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways. It's not about you this morning. In a world that we live in, that you can get on this right here and you can have anything that you want delivered directly to your house. Food, anything. I mean, Amazon, I'm most of the time the wives are the Amazon Prime addicts. I'm the Amazon Prime addict. I will hop on that and get anything that I want. And that's the world that we live in, right? It's a world of comfort for us. It's a world of me, me, me. But here's the thing. It's not about us. It's not about our way. It's about God's way. That's what we have to do this morning. We look and we look at Jesus and the ministry that He's called us into, the life that we live for Him. We look at it as a buffet. We can go through and we can pick this and I want to do this, but I don't like that. I want this and I want this. And we treat Jesus like, I don't know if they still do it or not, but like Ryan's. Does everybody remember Ryan's? I used to love going to Ryan's because I could go and fix my own little ice cream and I could put sprinkles on top of it and gummy bears and gummy worms and all different kinds of things. It's really gross thinking about it now as an adult, but as a kid, that was the greatest thing ever. And that's what we treat Jesus as. We treat Him as not even the ice cream. We treat Him as the sprinkles. I'll have Him on Sundays and I'll do this. When we look and see the whole buffet is Him, that's what sustains us. It's not the ice cream. Jesus is the meal, but we've got to realize that. We've got to realize that He is what sustains us. We don't sustain ourselves. Our ways are not His ways. Our ways is not what makes our life a better life. The way that we want to go is not the direction that we need to go. Because trust me, if the way I wanted to go, I would not be standing here right now. And I know that may sound really harsh to say, but I ran from God. I ran from the ministry. I didn't want to do this. I never would have imagined, 20 years ago that I would be up here standing talking to you today. I couldn't stand and talk in front of a group of 5 people, let alone however many's here today. But I had to get uncomfortable in my own skin. I had to get uncomfortable and get to the point where I'm not relying on myself. I'm relying on God. That's the whole point of being uncomfortable. When you get to that position where you can no longer do what you want to do, that's where He wants you because He can take control of you. And you have lost all control of your own self. And I've told y'all several times, and Lindsay always says, well, you preach that you need to get outside your comfort zone. You preach that you need to do this and do that. And let control of somebody else. And that is my one thing, that I am a control freak. I have to be in control. And it takes forever for me to get used to the fact that I am not in control. And that's the funny thing about us. We think that we're in control. I think that I put myself in certain situations and I'm in control of it, but here's the thing. God knows everything. God knows exactly what's going to happen. I ain't got control of anything. Here's the thing this morning. You don't have control of anything. I want you to realize that. You may think that you're in a comfort zone, and you may think that you have everything handled, but you don't. And when you finally come to realization of that, and you finally give it to Him and let Him have the reins the way that He needs to, I promise you things are going to go better. Now, is it all going to be sunshine and rainbows for you? No, it's not. There has been times in my life where I've been in the lowest of lows that I've ever been, but He was in control. And the only reason why I made it out of that low is because He was in control. And I think I've said it to y'all before. You know, I have the mountain and the valley illustration that I've used. When you're up here on the mountain, everything is great and everything is wonderful, and you think that you're in control and that you put yourself there, but you didn't. And when you're in the valley, you want to give control. When things are at the absolute worst that they can be, and you just throw your hands up like, Carrie Underwood, Jesus, take the wheel. Right? Here's the thing. When you're up on that mountain, you don't need Him. You feel that you don't need Him. It's in the valley where you need Him the most. But here's the thing. Can you grow anything in rocky, mountainous territory? Can you grow anything there? You've reached your peak. That's as far as you can go. The other thing to think about, when the rain comes, does it stick on the mountain? It doesn't. It all flows down into the valley. So the richest ground, the richest soil is in the valley. You are going to grow the most when you're in the valley. When you have no control and you've given it all to God, that's where you're going to grow the most this morning. Completely get out of your comfort zone. You're not going to do anything for Him. You're not going to move forward for Him if you're comfortable going. Cruise control is what I think of. When you're going, we'll say 80, down I-75, whichever direction you want to go, and you've got cruise control on, you don't care. You're happy-go-lucky. You're staying in your lane. Nobody else around you is bothering you. But once you get stuck in traffic, or once you're going through traffic, you've got to weave, you've got to turn, and you rely on Him. I know I've used several different illustrations on you this morning, but you're not comfortable when you're stuck. And that's where He wants you, because that's where you turn over control. My second point is, as we follow Jesus, our hearts will change. As we follow Jesus, our hearts will change. And here's the thing. It's not a behavior modification that it takes. For my kids, the belt is a behavior modification sometimes. For God, the old Baptist preacher used to say, taking him to the woodshed, taking us to the woodshed, that's a behavior modification. That's, okay, I've done it wrong this time. Let's try it a different way this time to try to get by with what I was doing before. It doesn't take a behavior modification. It takes a heart change. When something changes in your heart, that's when the true north sticks for you. When you actually, because there's been times in my life, in my ministry, where like, okay, God, take it over. I'll let you have it. Fingers crossed behind my back. I'll let you have it. Take the reins for a minute. But it wasn't until He brought me to my knees. It wasn't until I had absolutely nowhere else to go. And He changed my heart. Not only did He change my heart, He changed my way of thinking. He changed my way of walking. He changed the way of the things that I did. I had to get completely outside of my comfort zone and allow Him. I say allow, like I really allow God to do anything. But it changes in my heart. The fact that I no longer wanted to do it this way, and I wanted to follow Him, and I wanted to do it His way. It's not until He really reaches in and He gets a hold of us that we actually follow the direction that He has for us. And I promise you, once that heart changes, you will know it. Because I know for a fact, without a shadow of a doubt, that I was saved February 16th in I'm getting old. February 16th. It was like 20 years ago. But I know that I was saved that day. And I know that there was a heart change in me. But as I grew up and as things started coming at me, my heart got hardened. The way that I did things was not the way that I should do things. And then He brought me to my knees. And I had another heart change. And He put me on the direction that He wanted me to go. It's a heart thing. It's not a mind thing. We think everything revolves around what we are thinking. We think everything revolves around the fact that we know. Here's the thing, you don't know. I don't know, but He does. When it changes in your heart, you will know the true direction that you're going. God, when you turn it over to Him, is like a surgeon removing the cancer from you that has been slowly killing you. Here's the thing, we die slowly every day. We don't think about that because it's so slow. We don't think about the fact that we're on our way out. You know me, I'm 31 years old. I would never think that tomorrow I wouldn't be here. You know, some people that are getting later on in life, they understand that the end is coming. Here's the thing, it could be tomorrow for us. Do you want to have the regret of not following Him? Do you want to have the regret of not truly turning things over to Him? Because, I mean, that's one emotion for us as human beings that can really get a hold of you. You know, I think about, my papa dying. I mean, the man that I grew up idolizing, the man that I grew up constantly wanting to be around. And there's no more time with him anymore. And that regret takes hold of me. That regret that I didn't spend enough time with him. I didn't do enough things with him. I didn't do everything that I could. I couldn't spend as much time as I wanted with him. Here's the thing. We don't want to have that regret of not being able to be with Jesus. Not having that time that we spend with God on a daily basis. Our heart is a muscle. And for those of you that go to the gym, of course, you can see I don't go to the gym. For those of you that go to the gym, you do it on a daily basis, right? There's a daily regiment there that you're doing something for Him, for yourself, I mean. Which leads me into the other point. You need to work that heart out as a muscle, just like you do when you're working out your body. You need to spend daily time with Him. Get outside your comfort zone a little bit every day for Him, and it'll become the new normal. That's what we've got to do. See, the thing about it for us is change is scary. Change is extremely scary for us. We don't like the fact that things change. Honestly, you walk into a church and you move the seats in a different direction, somebody's going to be upset and somebody's going to say something about it, right? You walk in and somebody's sitting in your seat and you have to go sit somewhere else. That change, you don't like it. You don't like change. I don't like change. I mean, I'm a man of constant. When I go to Taco Bell for breakfast, I order this. When I go to this restaurant, I order this. There's no change. There's no going away from it because change is scary for us. Yet that's what God wants for us. He wants change. He wants change to happen in your life because how can you grow without changing? How can you move forward for Him without changing? How are we going to reach lost people without changing? You think about it, and I have no problem with the traditional Baptist church. I grew up in a traditional Baptist church. I still go to traditional Baptist church services sometimes. But sometimes that's not going to reach people. There was a change that happened. I love old hymnals, and I know that we sing hymns here sometimes too. But here's the thing. Change has to happen sometimes. This may reach somebody that a hymnal won't reach. Being a broken person for somebody will reach someone that a stand-up Baptist pastor is not going to reach. And it took me learning the fact that I've got to change sometimes. I've got to move in the direction that God wants me to move if I'm actually going to reach people. There's a huge divide between church and the world. There's a huge divide between church and the unchurched people. And here's the problem. We've got to bridge that divide. We can't just be happy sitting here while they're sitting out there dying and go to hell every day. We can't just be happy right here in our own skin and coming in on Sunday mornings and just, okay, I've done my Sunday and I'm done. That was one of the things that killed me when I first became a student pastor, is the fact that I would go out and I would try to get these kids, these drug addicts, these thugs, these people that nobody else wanted to, and I would bring them into the church, and just because they wore shorts or they wore a t-shirt on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night, the people in the church did not want them. If I'm stepping on your toes this morning, I'm sorry. But it did it to me too. I thought that there were rules in church. I thought that you had to come in and you had to be dressed in a certain way. You had to follow a certain direction. But it's not. It's not like that. Those are the people that need to be in here more than we do. Those are the people that we need to be reaching. We need to get outside of our comfort zone and stop thinking that church is one way, because it's not. It's not the direction that we want to go in. It's the direction that He wants to go. And here's the thing about it. He loves us, yes. He wants us in His house, yes. But He wants them in here too. Here's the thing. We're already here. He's already got us. He wants them. That's the call to our life today. He wants them. Who did He go out to reach? When Jesus came through any city, did He go and find the Pharisees and the religious people of those times? No, He went and He found the prostitutes. He found the tax collectors. He found those old grungy fishermen, and He made them His own. That's who He wants. And He cleaned them, right? He brought them in and He cleaned them up. That's what we were. I don't care how fancy you dressed before salvation came to your house. I don't care what house you lived in, what car you drove. You were stained. You were stained just as that drunk on the corner. That's how everybody else saw you, was the fact that you drove a fancy car and you lived in a big house and you dressed really nice. But on the inside, you were dirty and grimy, and He came after you. And that's what He's calling us to do. So when that person walks in here and they stink because they've not had a shower in forever, or they smell of something that you don't want to smell, you still need to reach up and get outside your comfort zone. You maybe you don't have to run up and give them a big old hug and be smelling it on you the rest of the time, but you reach out to a hand. That's all they're looking for. They want somebody to just reach out a hand and say, I'm here for you. Get outside your comfort zone just a little bit, because here's the thing. Somebody did it for you one day. Somebody did it for you. Number 3, if we follow Jesus, where will He lead us? That's the scariest thing for us. If we turn over full control to Him, we are scared of where He's going to go. There is no way you're going to put me in a car without me knowing the direction I'm going in, with somebody else driving that I don't trust. Right? I told you I'm a control freak when it comes to that. I don't like it. But here's the thing. When He's driving, He's going to take you exactly where you need to be. It may not be where you want to be, but He's going to take you exactly where you need to be. That brings us to Matthew chapter 4, verse 19. It says, Jesus called out to them, come follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people. Now, Rodney, it may not be about turkey hunting, but it's going to be about fishing. He asked me if I was going to preach about turkey hunting, but it's going to be about fishing. And I've used this illustration a lot too. You know, I grew up fishing with my dad as a kid, right? A lot of us did. We grew up fishing. I didn't worry about cleaning the fish. Half the time I didn't have to worry, when I was little bitty, I didn't have to worry about putting the worm on the hook. All I had to do was cast and reel in. Cast and reel in. I get them fish in the boat, Dad puts them in the cooler, and I keep fishing, right? That's as simple as I can get it for y'all this morning. He called us to be fishers of men. You don't have to worry about baiting the hook. You don't have to worry about cleaning them when you're done catching them. All he wants us to do is catch them. And we got that reversed. We think that people need to be clean before they come in here, and that's not at all what it is. That's not at all the point of what he has called us to do. He called us to go and fish them and bring them in, and we can let him clean them up later. That's all that matters this morning, church. Because like I said, you were once those people. Just because you're nice and cleaned up now doesn't mean anything, because you were once that person. I was once that person. I was once that person that was stained with sin. I was that drunk that nobody wanted to be around. I was that person, and he cleaned me up. It's going to get messy this morning, church. And that's what we're scared of. We're scared of getting our hands a little bit dirty. We're scared of the fact that he's going to put us somewhere where we don't want to be. But that's where he wants us to be exactly. There's been many places that I didn't want to go to, but once I left, I was happy that I was there. I didn't want to cut out 3 or 4 hours out of my time out of the day to go and do that. But I did it, and I was glad after I left. He's going to give you a joyful heart. Here's the thing. Jesus' heart beats for lost people. If you want to be about him, then you've got to be about them. Because that's what he's about. That's who he is about this morning. He went to the masses, and the masses were messy. Here's the thing. Your life is messy, whether you want to believe it or not. I tell you, I'm a control freak. I ain't got control of nothing this morning. My life is just as messy as anybody else's. Your life is just as messy as anybody else's. Church is messy. Relationships are messy. Your children are messy. Your life is messy this morning. But for some reason, Christians have this idea that they're just going to bring themselves in. These people are just going to walk in. It don't matter what you do or what I do. They're just going to walk in here and they're going to get saved and they're going to do this. Does God have the power to do that? Yes, he does. But he's called us to go out and get them. He's called us to go out and find them and bring them in. That's our duty. That's our responsibility. So that brings us to Luke chapter 19. Everybody know who Zacchaeus is? Right? Wee little I imagine Zacchaeus is about that tall. He's probably not that. But as a kid, I remember singing about Zacchaeus. So Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10, it says, Jesus entered into Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and he climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, and Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and he called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor. Lord, if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. Now pay attention to this verse right here. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. Jesus told Zacchaeus, I must come to your house. Out of all the people that he could have picked in that crowd, he picked the worst one of them. The tax collectors in those times were the most hated and looked down upon people by the Jewish people. They were the most hated people because exactly what he said. If I've cheated anybody, that's what the tax collectors were of that time. They're modern day IRS. I said it, I'm sorry. But that's what the tax collectors did. There was no judgment upon them if they took a little bit extra on their own. And they were hated by the Jewish people. But who was the person that Jesus sought out? He sought him out. Because he knew that he needed him the most. Out of all those people, Zacchaeus was the one that needed him the most. It was the messiest one also. Because what happened as soon as he said, Zacchaeus, I'm going to your house. Really? He's going to his house? Oh, I better get on the phone with somebody and tell them what he's doing. Or nowadays, I'm going to blast it on social media. Here's pictures of Jesus walking into Zacchaeus' house. What is he doing? Nobody wanted to be around Zacchaeus. Nobody wanted a part of Zacchaeus. But Jesus knew that that's where he needed to be. And I told you to draw attention to verse 10. That was kind of like a mic drop for Jesus. When he walked out and he said, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. He didn't come to perform the miracles that he did. I've always said this. We always look at the miracles. He's turned the water to wine. He's healed the blind. The paralyzed are walking. He did not come to do that. That's not at all why he came. That's not at all his ministry. Now, did he use it as a part of his ministry? Yes. But Jesus came to seek and to save those who are lost. He came to get the people that are dying and going to hell. That is who he came for. That is who we should be about. It doesn't matter what we do amongst ourselves. It doesn't matter that your small group has 15, 20 people in it. It doesn't matter that this church is filled with 140 church members that are here every Sunday. What should matter is that one person that is in this room today that has never heard of the Word of God, that has never heard that Jesus loves him. It matters about that one person that is on the very edge of this life and they have never heard about him because nobody's took the time, because it's too messy for them. They don't want to get outside of their comfort zone and go and talk to this person. That's who it matters. We don't matter this morning except for the fact that we need to go and get them. That's our job. That's our responsibility this morning. He is going to make us uncomfortable, but it's going to be uncomfortably comfortable. I said it right the first time. Good for me. He's going to make you uncomfortably comfortable this morning. What does that mean? It means that you are going to be in a world that you don't know, that you have no control over, but you're going to be so excited to do it. Little Chris Bumble plug there. You're going to be so excited to be able to do that. Here's the thing. I didn't want to be in student ministry. Do I love my kids? Yes. Do I love the students that I have here and that we have at the other campuses? Yes. That was not the ministry for me. But that's the direction that God sent me in, and he brought me to my knees and he said, you are going to go. You are going to do it. And the time that I've spent in this ministry, I've loved it. I've grown to love it so much. But I still need to reach outside. I still need to keep going. So as Jesus followers, we follow Jesus. Wherever he leads. The direction that he leads you in, that's where you go. Like I said, I didn't want to be a student pastor. I was scared to death. You could put me in a room with 100 people and I could preach to them for hours. I'm not preaching for hours this morning, but I could preach to them for hours. But you stick me in the room with some middle schoolers and high schoolers, I was scared to death. I'd start fumbling on my blah, 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 blah. I was scared they was going to sit there texting each other back and forth, me not knowing it, making fun of me. Because I did it. Made fun of the guy. Of course, it wasn't texting back then. But I was scared to death of it. But he made me uncomfortably comfortable with it. I'm still uncomfortable doing it. There's still times that on Wednesday nights that I just get up here and I have no idea what I'm saying, but that's where he wants me. And that's where I'm going to be. It may get messy. I may do 3 or 4 different things the wrong direction, but it's going to happen. This is where He put me. This is where I'm going to go. And we've got to the point in Christianity where we believe that we need to sterilize ourselves away from that crowd out there. We don't need to be around those people. Peter did it. The mighty man of God, Peter. He got to the point where he said, I'm only going to eat with Jewish people. This is where I'm going to eat. And they're going to eat over there. And Paul came and chewed his butt out. And he told him that's not what this is anymore. It's not us versus them. I had that wrong. Us versus them. And that's not what it is for us. It's not us versus them. It's us helping them get to here. This is where they need to be. This is where we need to be. So finally, I come to my last point. It's, as Jesus followers, we follow Jesus into the messiness, into the uncomfortable, because Jesus is worth it. So I want you all to think about this for a second. Because I guarantee you didn't make it all this way on your own. I want you to think of who got messy for you one day. Who got messy for you? Who came and picked you up out of your sin? Who came and pulled you out from where you were? You know, I remember several different people praying for me. Several different people constantly coming to me and saying, this is where you need to be. This is what you need to be doing. You don't need to be doing that. Right here's where God wants you. So think of the person that got messy for you. And here's my challenge today. This week, before you come back on Sunday, this is not hard. Yes, you're going to be uncomfortable. Get messy for someone this week. I know that you think of somebody, and I can think of 3 or 4 different people right now that I've avoided talking to because I didn't want to get messy. I didn't want to get into that. They're not worth my time. Get messy for someone this week. Make time to go and talk to this person. Make time and get messy for someone. Because here's the last thing that we can do together. As Jesus followers, let's follow Jesus wherever He leads us. Follow Him to the ends of the earth. Follow Him because here's the thing. He's waiting on you right now. He's waiting on you to just take that first step. And that's all it takes, church. That's all it takes this morning. You think that it's this big, long, drawn-out thing that I've got to go and do this, and I've got to do this, and I've got to prepare. Don't prepare. Just take that first step to go and get messy for someone. Take that first step to go out into this world and find someone that needs Him because somebody once did it for